Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to start my video off with a trigger warning. I am going to be talking a lot about my experience with my eating disorder. I'm going to be talking a lot about eating disorders and even going through some of the foods that I used to eat during this time period of my life. If this is triggering for you, please do not watch this. I don't need the views. I don't need likes. I just want to share my experience. So let me start off by going through my experience with my eating disorder. I struggled with extreme restriction between the ages of 17 and 22. During that time frame, I was obsessive about my food intake, about calorie consumption. I had extreme body dysmorphia. My health was very poor. Anyone out there who feels like an eating disorder is all about collarbones and hip bones and thigh gaps, I just want to take this moment to say it's not it's not glamorous, it is not attractive. During these years of my life, I struggled with hair loss. I lost bone density in my teeth. I lost my period for a total of about a year and a half. I was cold all the time. I had digestive issues. I had kidney problems. It's not glamorous. It's not beautiful. It's serious. The start to my eating disorder was when I was seeking help for chronic migraines. I was prescribed a medication that made me lose my appetite and would make my stomach hurt when I ate. And so I kind of stumbled into this accidentally from that. I got a lot of positive reinforcement from the weight loss that I had. And it was very easy for me not to eat because it actually was uncomfortable to eat. When I was taken off of that medication, my appetite returned. I noticed weight gain and I noticed the change in the way that people around me interacted with me, and kind of internalized that based on, in my head, the change in my body. And so I became very obsessive and very controlling with my food. And it was also in a time frame of my life, we were graduating high school. I was moving on to new things. I had moved out of my parents' house. Everything in my life felt out of my control. And so the one thing that I could control was my food. And control it, I did. I'm just going to show you the craziness that was my life back then. All of this is filled with the calorie count of food and a detailed diary of every single food that I ate over the course of years. And also shame towards myself, cruelty towards myself for my food choices, lists of dangerous foods and restrictions, things that I was not allowed to have in my home, things that I was not allowed to eat, and consistent reminders of how bad I had been for eating things like peanut butter sandwiches. This is the kind of neurotic tendency that eating disorders can be like. I was struggling. And the only reason that I don't have more notebooks is because I discovered calorie counting apps and started inputting everything into that. If anyone else out there has an experience with certain calorie counting apps where you found so much satisfaction eating under your calorie allowance, then you know what I'm talking about. I want to go through some of the meals, and I use that term very loosely. Some of the meals that I used to eat during the time frame of my life when I was struggling the most with this. It's so easy to recreate these meals. I I don't need all of this to know exactly what I ate. I know exactly what I ate. Every meal is almost exactly identical as to the meals that I ate every single day, with very little variation. But seeing the madness written down is eye-opening. So, enough of my blabbing. Let's go ahead and start making dinner. So my eating disorder meal for this would be a single packet of regular instant oatmeal, one banana, and a teaspoon of honey. That's the base for a fine meal. What we're going to do today is turn that into a filling, nourishing meal. I'm going to go ahead with the same basic structure of it. So we are going to have oats with banana, but I am going to add some peanut butter to it, some crushed peanuts. So let's go ahead and get cooking. Breakfast was so delicious. Next meal that I want to recreate is a lunch that I had basically every single day. That is a cup of soup. I would get the 100-calorie can of chicken and rice or chicken noodle soup from Skinny whatever, and I would have exactly one 100-calorie serving of that and a half a sandwich. Today I'm going to recreate that with a full sandwich and a full bowl of soup. I would love to share with you a little bit more about my experience with my eating disorder. When I stopped restricting and started eating again, I didn't seek help for this. It was something that I was in denial about me having an actual problem. I just kind of started eating again because I was so very hungry. But the disordered thoughts were not gone. I hadn't dealt with the reasoning behind it. I hadn't healed what was inside of me in my relationship with food. And so when I started eating again, I gained weight very quickly. It's not about the weight gain so much as the feeling of this loss of control, this inability to control things in my life. And that's when I started back to restricting certain foods, allowing other foods. I tried this diet, I tried that diet, I tried another one, and my body was not okay with it. Like, you restrict for a long period of time and you start to eat again, your body doesn't know what to do with that. And so if you are in a place in your life right now where you have been restricting for a long time and you have either released control of that or you are struggling with seeing that spiraling out of control, your body is gaining weight, I just want to let you know it's normal. I'm sorry, it's hard. I just hope that you have resources in your life to where you can find support, you have good friends, find professional help. Your body will adjust. It will sort itself out. I promise. If you get the help that you need, you can get there. We can get there together. I did not seek professional help, and I struggled so much. I relapsed into my disordered restrictive pattern for a few months a couple years ago. And as awful as that was, as challenging as that was on myself, it was what I needed in order to actually heal my relationship with food. I had thought that I had healed that when I went vegan about 5 years ago, but I hadn't healed the underlying issue, that need for control in my life, that relationship with food. There were still good foods and bad foods. I would still shame myself for indulging in foods that I categorized as bad or unhealthy. I still felt this desire to lose weight and this feeling of not being in control of myself because I could not control my food choices. So after my relapse, after going through that, and then experiencing again this whirlwind of loss of control, I realized I really needed to focus on healing. And I have. I have been strongly focused on it in therapy. I have been seeking resources through YouTubers like Abby Sharp and Julia Ayers. I've learned about intuitive eating. I have learned about healing from food related issues. It's always going to be challenging. Every day it is a battle against hearing triggering messaging from people around food. You have to not let that affect you. And some days are better than others. Eventually, there is this beauty in having a joy for just eating the foods that you like, making decisions of food based on your health, based on what feels good and nourishing for you, and not just nourishing for your body, but nourishing for your soul. It's amazing to discover intuitive eating. If you're like me and you're on the other side of an eating disorder and you see what other people have experienced, I was never hospitalized. I never had to have a feeding tube. I did technically eat, and I convinced myself that I was healthy because I had 3 meals a day. Again, I use meals very loosely. Writing down every single thing that you eat and knowing exactly how much you weighed when you wrote these down, that's a problem. That is disordered. That is not normal. That is not okay. This is not controlling food. This is food controlling your life. Food was controlling my life. Nobody needs that. No, weighing your blueberries is not okay. Weighing your blueberries is not the way to happiness. It's not sustainable. It's not okay. That is what leads to the health problems that I had. I want to use this video to show how far I've come. For myself, that's helpful for anyone watching. That's great. If you have gotten on the other side of an eating disorder, I would love to hear your story in the comments down below. Let's have a conversation about it. Healing through community, I feel like, is always best. The final meal that I'm going to recreate today is something that I didn't eat very frequently, because usually my dinner would just be what was left from my can of soup and my other half of a sandwich. But I did find a few things in my journal entries of a half chicken breast a sweet potato, and either 3 spears of asparagus or some green beans or other vegetable variety. So I will be doing tofu with rice and quinoa and some vegetables and the sweet potatoes. So let's go ahead and cook my final meal for the day. Thank you so much for watching this video and letting me share my experience with you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time with something just a little more lighthearted. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.